So the long-range outlook, in my opinion, still looks active as we head through this March. Now, we're starting to move into the time of year where severe weather becomes the dominant player in the weather and the biggest hazard. But today we're dealing with blizzard conditions still going up here across parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin as this big upper low wraps up. Temperatures will be on the way down here behind this cold front and this weather system, so below normal temperatures for a good chunk of the east, all the way into the south, and we'll see the cold air move into the northeast as well. Temperatures rebound pretty nicely here across the southern plains, across the Gulf Coast states, and then we're watching this piece of energy that will be moving through by Friday and Saturday. This will kick off to the east. There could be some severe weather out ahead of this, too, across parts of Texas. Something worth watching anyway, and then a big ridge building in across the west. Colder than average temperatures across the east, colder for March standards. Clearly, we're not in the midst of deep winter, and it's January. And, you know, a couple of days ago, the models were hinting at a big storm. And if you remember, if you've been an OG on the channel, you know what I'm talking about. I wasn't buying into this, and here's why. I mean, we had one operational run, really two operational runs of the GFS, and you might even argue that three were trying to show some type of big storm. They've all really backed down on that a couple of days ago, and then yesterday they continued to advertise the idea that this isn't going to happen. We're going to have a very progressive system swinging through the south, and I think that's still what we're looking at. Behind this, some warm temperatures. This would be for Monday and Tuesday across a lot of the country. Temperatures on the way up, and a pretty powerful storm. Looks like, to me, at this point in time, like it's going to move into the west coast. This could be one severe weather maker heading into next week, and then a really strong trough starts to dig in by the late part of next week. We're still really far out here. We're pushing things really out far, but hey, it's the season of severe weather, and we could be looking at another potentially strong storm. Let's start off across the west, and then we're going to move east where we've got, again, our big storm wrapping up. Heading into today, we've got a storm that will be moving in. Heavy snow here. This is going to really wrap up into the Intermountain West, even as far south as Arizona and the Four Corners states. This energy will move east as we move through the week. It's going to bring some more snow to parts of Iowa, maybe even parts of northern Illinois. We'll look at that in just a second. But here's where we are right now on this Wednesday. Strong winds, blizzard conditions behind this storm. The wind is blowing. Big winds going for sure. And this continues to push to the east. Big winds going, though, here across the Great Lakes, too. Out ahead of this, strong winds will really be picking up. We've got a ton of wind advisories, high wind warnings out. It's just an incredible situation as far as wind goes, and some severe weather, too. There could be some trickiness here to this, too, as we get our upper cold pool moving through parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, for some extra severe weather, not just across the southeast, which is what we're dealing with right now, into parts of the Carolinas and even into parts of southeast Virginia. Cold air moves in behind this. Now we're watching that next system across the west. It will spread east as we move into Friday and Saturday. Could bring a stripe of some snow here from Nebraska into Iowa, all the way into northern Illinois, northern parts of Indiana. At this point, it certainly doesn't look like a major snowstorm, but cold enough, though, that we're talking about some snow here, so winter still holding on temperature-wise, and then some showers across the south. Snow showers continue across the northeast. We dry out here across the west, and then heading into the weekend, showers across the south for Sunday, at least Sunday morning, from North Florida to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. And then this little trough here, this weak piece of energy, was what the models were trying to show phasing here with this northern branch energy. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. And then we move into next week. One system, two systems to watch. Let's see how all this plays out. Still a long way to go with this one, but we're looking, I mean, that looks like a repeat of what we're dealing with right now. What we're dealing with today, though, this is really impressive. Some really strong storms possible here, especially into southeast Virginia, southern Virginia, the Carolinas, from the Piedmont. We're dealing with the tornado warnings this morning across central South Carolina. This threat will continue to push to the east, and then this afternoon, I think you watch up here into Pennsylvania, maybe even West Virginia, and northern parts of Virginia, too. Tornado risk highest here, but that risk isn't zero. As far north as Erie, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Akron, all the way down into parts of West Virginia, Western Virginia. If you look at the future radar, you'll see why that threat is there. Your upper low spinning back here, getting stacked with your surface low, and then there's the snow going here across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. Strong thunderstorms out ahead of our system, a tremendous amount of rain with this too, and then here comes your low spinning through. Watch out ahead of this for these thunderstorms that could develop. And we could be talking about low-topped thunderstorms and maybe some low-topped supercells where they're not going to be intense thunderstorms where they where they can just billow up because of the cold air. So watch these little cells that get off by themselves. They could produce some tornadoes up here in Northeast Ohio, Pennsylvania. The primary threat in my mind would be damaging winds and hail, but certainly something to watch as we head into this afternoon and this evening, because now you've also got some surface heating too, as this dry line, or I should say this dry slot, swings around our low. You've got snow moving on the southern side of this. Check this out. We were moving over to snow into parts of western Kentucky, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. North of that, it's rain as your low really wraps the cold air in around itself. And then there goes your squall line off to the east, out to sea as we move into the weekend. Still some heavy rain into the northeast as we move into tonight. And then there's some snow showers dropping into the Ohio Valley, into the Appalachians. There could be some accumulating snow into the mountains, but certainly not a huge snowstorm by any stretch. And then we say goodbye to this, at least the strong, severe energy. Snow over the next couple of days. Now, some of this up in here, consider that it's falling over right now. Some of it fell overnight. So the model is keeping that on the chart here. But I want to look at this. Check this out. This next system that moves in on Friday, trying to put some snow down here into Nebraska, a couple of inches, 2, 3, 4 inches of snow. In fact, the European is trying to print out more than 6 inches, up to 10 to 11 inches across western Nebraska, and then lighter amounts. It's kind of hard to see it stacked, but it's there across northern parts of Iowa into Indiana and Illinois. Again, not a huge snowstorm by any stretch as this pushes off to the east heading into Friday and then into Saturday. Could bring some snow into parts of Pennsylvania. And then there's the rain showers to the south, which we've already talked about that. But this is the GFS. I want to push it out a little bit further. I showed you the European. They're pretty much lockstep with this first piece of energy, missing this second piece across the northern stream that's moving through. And then as we move into next week, now we're looking at warmer temperatures. Here comes your next storm that would kick into Texas, pretty much lockstep. And if you look at what the GFS is picking up on, I mean, I can't believe it. There's agreement here for next week for some kind of big storm late next week to form across the Central Plains and then move north. And then you could be dealing with certainly more snow, more wind, and maybe even blizzard conditions again somewhere. And again, remember, it doesn't take a foot of snow to create a blizzard. Blizzard conditions and blizzard warnings are issued by the National Weather Service. If you're going to see winds up to 35 miles per hour, that would reduce visibility less than a quarter of a mile for more than 3 hours. That's specifically what a blizzard is. Could you see blizzard conditions at any given moment? You sure could. But we've been dealing with blizzard warnings for the last 24 hours in many areas. And unfortunately, I think if you get something like this, you're going to get more severe weather too. All right, if you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe. Hope you'll come back. And hope you have a great, what is today? Wednesday. I feel like it's Tuesday. The week is flying.